Hello, friends and neighbors. Welcome to Gentry. Oh, hold on. Welcome to Gentry Vintage. I am Josh, your host. I appreciate you tuning in. Garrett over at Smoke Snacks made this tray for me a few months ago, and this is something that I really cherish and am very appreciative of. And Garrett, I wanted to show you that this stays right here on my desk all the time. This is where it stays, and it's one of the first things you see when you walk in the room. So, as I said, it's something that I'm proud of and very appreciative of. So, I just wanted you to know where it is. Happy Veterans Day to everybody. If you did serve our country, I want to take a moment just to say thank you. I am off work today. This is the second year that my company has obliged us with giving us the day off for Veterans Day. However, last year they told us that it was Employee Appreciation Day is why they were giving us the day off. Not sure how that happened or if it was intentional. I don't know. I don't want to know. If it was intentional, that's pretty taggy. But anyway, we are off today. The wife is not off today. She's called a couple times to see what I was up to. I told her I was reorganizing / cleaning whatever my little corner of the world back here in the house. She said otherwise known as rearranging again. I said no, not really rearranging, just kind of reorganizing. I don't know. We've been in this house almost 2 years, and for whatever reason, I just cannot seem to get this room exactly how I want it. One day, I'll get there. Good news is we don't plan on moving anytime soon, so, I'm not on a time limit. So this video is for Ragamuffin Piper, Randy. Randy, I just recently, as of yesterday, found your channel. For whatever reason, I had never heard of your channel, and then Carolina Rose mentioned it, and I figured, well, if Rose is mentioning it, it's got to be a good channel. So I checked it out. I enjoyed what I seen, and I have subscribed. So Randy is celebrating his 1-year anniversary as being a YouTube presenter. And not only that, but he's also celebrating his, now over 500 subscribers. So congratulations on both of those. Those are both good things to celebrate, sir. As I said, I've been going through your videos, and I subscribe so I don't miss any new content because I like what I see. So I'm not gonna make this a long video. The day's getting away from me, and I've got some things I still want to do before the evening winds down. But Randy wanted us to talk about something that we've learned from one of our parents. So I want to take a minute to do that. If you don't follow the channel, or if you just haven't seen, unfortunately my dad passed away a few weeks ago. And me and my dad were very close, and he was somebody that I always admired and looked up to. But I made a video talking about my dad, and I figured I would bring him up again because, for one, he deserves it, and two, like I said, my dad is somebody that I've always looked up to and admired. So. And I'm proud that a lot of people say that I'm, especially the wife, the wife says I'm just like him, but I take that as a major compliment when people tell me I'm just like my dad. So one thing that I learned from my dad from a very young age, my dad was always one of the most laid-back, easygoing, kindest individuals you would ever meet in your life. I've never, in my 38 years, have I ever met anyone that said they did not like my dad. And there's a reason for that. My dad had what I call, and I hate to even call it that, but the way the world is today, I guess that's what you got to call it in a way. But my dad had what I call old-fashioned morals and values. And my dad he was just a very kind, natured individual, and always had wonderful manners and professionalism. Um, very, very respectful kind of person, and in return, people always respected him. Um, I was taught at a very young age, and not just by my dad teaching me things, but most of the things I learned from my dad, I learned by example. Um, One thing I learned was you always, even from a young age, I always referred to people as yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, thank you, you're welcome, just your please, those things that people don't say nowadays. Those are things that I was taught from a very young age, because I always saw my dad do that. My dad always treated everybody with the utmost respect, and that was something I always admired about my dad. There would be times me and my dad could be walking in a grocery store or something, and there might be a elderly. They don't have to be elderly. It could be any age. Say there was a lady coming with a buggy full of groceries, or an arms full of groceries or whatever, and my dad we'd be walking in or something, and I remember a few times when I was a little kid, my dad would kind of grab me by the arm and kind of pull me back, and he would say, "Let the lady go first." And that was just something my dad always did. It didn't even have to be a lady. It could be a man. It could be another kid. It could be anybody. But that's just how my dad was. If there was somebody walking out the door behind him, he always held the door for them. If they were if you're walking in and they were coming up behind you, or if you're walking in and they're coming out, he would always open the door and let them out before he entered. Just basic respectful things like that. Just my dad always did, and I always admired that about him. And nowadays, you don't see much of that at all. I used to work in the funeral business, and one of the things I was taught first thing in the funeral business, which was not a hard thing for me to learn because it was something I was already had ingrained into myself anyway. But my first boss at the first funeral home I worked at told me one day, he said, nobody enters or leaves this building without somebody, one of you as in staff, somebody will always open the door. No one opens that door themselves. And I said, well, no, okay, I'm good with that, because I'm used to that anyway. I've always kind of followed in my dad's footsteps with things like that. And but there was one day I had just moved to Kentucky, and I was working at a funeral home where I used to live, and it was actually the funeral home where we had my dad's funeral. A lady was coming up one evening to a visitation, and she was an elderly lady, but it wouldn't have mattered regardless. But she was an elderly lady, and I seen her coming up to the door, and I swung the door open for her and stepped out and held the door open, and she stopped and looks at me, and she says, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm holding the door open for you." She said, "Why?" I said, "Well, it's just a matter of respect." And she said, "Is it because I'm old?" I said, "No, ma'am." I said, "It doesn't matter to me how old you are." I said, "I was going to hold the door open for you regardless." She said, "Well, where I'm from, they don't do things like that." I said, "Well, where are you from?" She said, "Michigan." I said, "Well," "I don't know what they do in Michigan, but I said, around here, at least in these parts," I said, we like to hold the door open for people." And I said, "That's how I was raised." And she said, "Well," and we parted ways. She just walked off after that. And then later on in the evening, for whatever reason, I don't know if she felt bad for having an attitude. I don't know what it was, but for whatever reason, we sat down and got to talking a little bit. There was when you walked in the back door of the funeral home, there was a couch and some wingback chairs and stuff kind of in the little foyer area, whatever you want to call it. And I had sat down for a few minutes, and she come walking around the corner, and she just plopped down in the chair on the other side of me. There was a little lamp table and two chairs, whatever. So I was sitting there in the chair, and she just plopped down and she just started talking to me. And by the time we left, we knew each other by name. By the time she left, we knew each other by name. And I jumped up and grabbed the door for her as she left, and she said, "Thank you, young man." She said, "You have a wonderful evening." So I don't know what changed. I don't know if she was just having a bad moment or what, but yeah, one thing I also got from my dad, as you might see on this channel sometimes, is as my aunt likes to call it, because my uncle's the same way. She calls it the gentry gift of gab. And my dad was always the kind of person that never met a stranger. We've always joked in the family that my dad was the kind of person that could talk 30 minutes on the wrong number. And my wife says that I take after my dad on that too. She says she enjoys going places with me because I'm the more outgoing person than she is. And I can be standing in line at a grocery store or something and just strike up a conversation with somebody. That's just what I do. Sometimes when you're standing there, people are in line with you and nobody's talking, it's kind of awkward. So I don't know. I just start talking to people. Okay, I pretty much just talk to people anywhere I go for the most part. But I get that from my dad too. But yeah, that's one thing I've always, I'm very proud that I got from my dad, that I was taught from my dad, both by, him teaching me and just leading by example kind of situation. But I'm glad that I inherited my dad's old-fashioned morals and values. You just don't see much of that in the world today, and it's pretty sad. Even people my own age, like I said, I'm 38 years old, and I hardly ever see people my age holding the door for somebody or saying yes ma'am, no ma'am. Back home, in the area where I'm from, you see that a little bit more. But here in the big city, I'm not right smack dab in the big city. I'm on the outskirts. But regardless, you don't see a lot of that here in Louisville, Kentucky. But hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of what I was saying. But yes, my dad's laid back, easygoing, kind. As my uncle put it, he was one of my dad was one of 9 kids, and he was the 4th youngest, so he was almost right in the middle. But my dad's baby brother said, "Your dad, I believe, out of all 9 kids, has always had the most laid back, easygoing demeanor out of all of us kids." And he said, "That's one thing I've always admired about him." And I told him, I said, "Well, you're just like him." He said, "Not all the time." He said, "But I wish I was." I said, "Well, from what I've seen in my 38 years of life," I said, "You and my dad are very, very similar." And I've always been pretty close with my uncle as well, but he may not think so, but him and my dad were almost just alike. Very obviously brothers. But yeah, I'm glad that that's something that my dad has passed on to me as well. And I do pride myself in that. I had a lady at work one day back a few years ago. It's back when I was a cigarette smoker, and we were outside on break smoking. And she looked over at me and she said, "Josh," and we weren't close. We weren't, I mean, we were acquaintances, I guess. I wouldn't say we were like good friends, but she looked over at me and she said, "Josh," she said, "you've got to be about the realest person I've ever met." I said, "I assume that's a compliment." I said, "But I don't get what you mean there." She said, "You're the realest person I've ever met." She said, "Too many people nowadays are trying to be somebody they're not, or just, trying to be something they're not, trying to be like somebody else, or trying to impress somebody or whatever." And she said, "You're just you all the time. You're just you." And she said, "I appreciate that, because you just never see that." And that was a huge compliment, because I've never tried to be like anybody else. I've just always tried to be the person that I am, and I'm not ashamed of that. I'm a little strange sometimes, a little different. I don't have much in common with the people my own age, but I've just always tried to be me, and as I tell people, I don't know how to be anything else. I am me, and that's what it's going to be. I've about smoked this down. But with that said, and now that I've about smoked this down, it is time for me to jump off here and get some things done. There's only so much time left in the day before it's time to start over and get back to work tomorrow. Wish I had the rest of the week off. But anywho, Randy, congratulations once again, sir. And I hope this is a acceptable VR for you. And for everybody else, thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting the channel. And if you're not subscribed to Ragamuffin Piper, I'm gonna put a link to his link to his channel down there in that subscription thing, and make sure you go check him out. I think you'll like him as well. But other than that, until next time, I wish blessings for all, and lots of luck to you and yours.